Hi, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. So, today's episode is quite exciting. As you know, a few months ago, before it was officially released, I went over to Stephen Slate's place, which happens to be down the hill from where I am. He actually lives down there and he has his place down there. So I just rolled down the hill and went and checked out the VMS. So I finally got one, and here it is. And I'm going to do the YouTube cheesy unboxing that everybody seems to do. So hopefully I won't cut my hands open on this. I'm going to use, you can all tell me I'm doing this wrong because I probably am. But look at this, cheesy unboxing time. Dun, dun, dun. People make money out of doing videos where they unbox, don't they? Like toys and all kinds of crazy things. Anyway, here it is. Quite excited, really. I haven't got anything new in quite a while. Like the rest of us, I'm always looking for bargains, like used guitars from eBay and stuff like that. eBay's my friend. I bought quite a lot of stuff. So this is kind of exciting to have something brand spanking new. All right, nice. Comes in a nice little flight case. I don't know which one's which, so let's open up and check it out. Very nice. There it is, solid foam. So this works well. I mean, that's actual proper case. I mean, bearing in mind this whole thing's $1,000 with the mic pre. It's pretty remarkable. So, looks like a decent shock mount, very tightly in there. All right, decent shock mount. About as good as my my cheaper Neumann ones, like the TL103. So, that's kind of substantial. So, nice start. Next up, we have the microphone. As you know, we tried this out with Stephen. So you have seen me use it with him. But, you know, I have a real 47 in there. So we're going to do a little bit of a shootout. Not that I'm a great singer, but we can try it on different sources. You know, this is a really good touch because I don't know if you've heard this, and it's worth talking about. So all my expert friends on microphones, of which I'm not an expert on anything, let alone microphones, they tell me to put these plastic covers over your mic and keep them like that. All of the experts tell me, all the mic people tell me, that the biggest enemy of microphones is dust and getting dust in the capsule. So already, big brownie points, because now I have its little sock to store it in. So I can leave it up on the stand permanently and just put the sock over it, and it's going to protect it. So that's pretty nice. Nice work. It's quite substantial. I'll move it forward here so you can see it. I mean, it's like a real mic. It's not cheap. I know that they build the mic preamp part in America. I mean, it's unblemished, straight out of the box. I like this matte finish. I mean, it looks expensive. It doesn't look cheap, so that's a nice start. You know me, I'm all about value. I want to buy something that I think is giving me a lot of value for money. It's why I've liked the Lewitt microphones. The main reason why I'm excited about this mic is I have a 47. I have a Lewitt LCT 940, which is a tube FET mic. So between that, the 57, I have two C12As. I have a lot of microphones. I have RCA 77s. I have an AEA, you know, the big RCA AEA. I have a lot of really beautiful mics. But the one thing I've always wanted is not a C12A, but a C12. And so for $1,000, I've got a C12 simulation. So that's really what I care about. I'm going to compare to my 47. I think it's important to know, and all the experts, of which I'm not, all the ones that know about 47s, anybody who really knows about 47s will tell you there's no real one sound of a 47. For instance, when I went to Sausalito to work with the Fray, they had 4 47s, 4 of them. And one of them was the Stevie Wonder 47. One of them was the one they used on Rumours. You know, they all had a story. They all had a pedigree, all these different microphones. So when Isaac came to sing, we lined up all 4 47s, and then I just patched quickly between them, going through the same 1073 that I have over there. The same 1073, and then I went with the same compression chain and everything, and I just had him sing into each one, just a phrase. And then we went and listened back to back and chose what we thought was the best sounding mic. Interestingly enough, the one that we actually liked was a New Vista, which for the 47 fanatics is a no-no. That's the one that apparently came after they ran out of the original tubes. So but it had the best extended top end and it was kind of the warmest down the bottom. Now, there was probably a million different reasons why. One of them being probably the conditions of the capsules, the condition of each of the different tubes, electronics, blah, 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 all different things. But none of them, I can assure you, sounded the same as the other. It wasn't a case of like 4 identical mics with one slight difference. I mean, they sounded like they could have been different manufactured mics. So, you know, that's the thing about 47s. And I'm not an expert, but a lot of people will tell you that. Okay. Wow. I mean, you know, darn it, Stephen's done a really good job of giving you a lot of value for money. Now, this, actually, I'm very excited by this because this is designed by a really special guy, Paul Wolf. Paul, as I'm sure the experts among you will know, God, I've used expert a lot. For those of you that know more about this stuff than me, know that Paul Wolf used to own API. And Paul designs beautiful equipment and really knows his schnizzle. You know, so he's not a stupid man. Paul is very smart. So I'm very excited by this. Again, substantial for a small piece of equipment. Feels like it's got some stuff going on there. I'm not going to open it up. I'm not going to look in there. I'm not going to see if there's transformers and stuff. I'm just going to hear it. Gain control is very sweet. Feels really substantial. Moves nicely. Always good when the controls are good. You've got input from mic to instrument, so you can use it obviously for a line input on there. You've got polarity, so you can flip the phase. There's a level control, which I seem to remember just basically glows. You know, brighter, probably glows to red when it distorts. Power on and off, and of course phantom on and off. And there's a pad. I don't know what it's set to. Maybe it's a 10 dB, but it's a pad. So ultra linear microphone preamp. So basically, my guess is that they're designing this to be as clean as possible, just to amplify the signal, because obviously all of the clever stuff is in the software. This microphone has been designed, you know, they've designed it as flat as they can to go in as flat as they can preamp so that they can use their emulations, their simulations, whatever you want to call it, to do the different preamps, the different mic mods, etc. And really, yeah, well, let's try it out. So it's good stuff. Okay, so this is what I've done. It's not science, but it's as near as darn it for me. So what I've got is I've got my 47, and my 47 is going into my BAE with no EQ and no compression. That is going into the Apollo here. And the Apollo obviously is going into Pro Tools. Now, I've got the VMS, and the VMS is going into its own VMS1 mic pre, and that's going into the Apollo. They're going into 2 separate channels. And what I've decided to do with the acoustic guitar, for instance, is I'm going to play a part, and I'm going to layer it, and we're going to compare and see how the 2 things sound. Now, when we're using the VMS, we're also going to use the FG73, which doesn't have any EQ on it, and we're not going to use any compression simulation, and we're not going to do anything in particular. So basically what we're doing, as near as darn it, is we are going to simulate a 47, a real 47, and a 47 going into a Neve, essentially. I mean, Stephen isn't calling it a 1073, but he calls it an FG73. So I think it's safe to assume, especially because it also happens to be RAF blue, it was safe to assume that it's simulating a 1073. So, not science, of course, but sort of like give us all an idea of just like how it feels when we start layering some stuff. And I haven't practiced this and I haven't tried it yet, so it's just, let's see what happens. And I'm going to play to an existing track, a track actually I've been working on, and I decided to add an acoustic outro on it, so it's kind of, you know, it's a necessity. Cool, so here's the click and the track. Cool, so that's going to be the part, and let's go to the 47 first. I'm trying to bounce these pretty close, late it on both ones. And I'm going to make a stereo file of it, and we're going to compare. So it's pretty low level, but you know what? The whole idea is to make this identical, so it's not the hottest level I've ever printed of an acoustic guitar. But, you know, the point is to make these similar. So I'll pan that one over to the left. I'll create, this new one's going to be to the right. Cool. So that's the two higher parts. Now let's do a lower one. I'll put this one back up center like that. Hit Option on it. Cool, so there's one. Shift Option D, duplicate. Let's pan that one left, the one we just did. Let's pan, and then here's the new one. The double. Cool. Okay, so those are two different voicings and they're both stereo. I'm going to pan it left to right, they're all at 0 dB. Let's come out and record on the U47, the real one. I'm going to group those U47s together, so U47 ACC for acoustic, and then let's go to the VMS through the VMR. Cool, so here we are. We're pretty much in exactly the same position. Near as darn it. We've got the front of the mic here. We've got the FG47 up. You can select the mics, but we're going to stay in it. It says intensity, it just set at 100. We can obviously adjust that afterwards. Okay, let's try it out. I mean, not doing anything magical here, no compression, no EQ, nothing in particular. So let's try it out. Cool. Well, it's interesting. Doesn't mean anything, but looking at the levels, they're pretty darn similar. I was wondering whether they would print more dynamically. And the reason why I say that is because obviously the mic pre and the tube and all that stuff, you expect it to influence the way that the signal's printed as well. Not just playback, because obviously these plugins are playback alterations. You know, I can record it and then manipulate it afterwards. So that's interesting that it's printing pretty similarly. Very interesting indeed. All right, so let's double it. Okay, so let's duplicate it. Shift Option D for those of you in Pro Tools. We'll pan that one over to the right. Okay, let's Cool. Shift Option D. Cool. Okay, now I'm excited to hear what we got. So, putting this down, I'm going to solo safe my track. And I'm basically going to solo between these. So let's make these both small. Okay. So you're going to hear either this or this. And let's put it in loop so we can have some fun with it. Hopefully it won't mess up. Okay, so let's try a couple of things. So first of all, here's the U47 with the track. Go to the VMS. I mean, just based on how it sounds in the track, I prefer the VMS just because it's a little bit brighter because it cuts through when you're talking about acoustic guitars. But that's not the purpose of this. Let's listen to them in solo. So here's the VMS. U47. VMS. All right, back to 47. VMS. All right, I got my Paz meters out here. Let's see if we're getting similar levels. That's a VMS. I would say the 47 is like a dB down. So for schnitz and schniggles, I'm going to bring them all up 0.6 and see if they're balanced. That's a VMS. There's definitely a smoothness in the top end of the 47, and so what does that mean? Does that mean it's not as bright? Probably. It's old and dull sounding. I know that Stephen modeled his on a on a really pristine one, and mine's probably not as pristine. So I'm bringing the 47 up a little bit. So the question is, it's probably too much. Now that they're quite similar in level, the question would be, is like, can we get the VMS if we, so here's the virtual drive, here's the intensity. I wonder if we bring up the intensity on this somewhere halfway. Just going to copy these down, make my life easier. How much closer they're going to be. Now I'm going to drive it a little bit. I'm going to pull the trim back slightly to compensate because we always run these a little hotter. And we're going to split the difference on the output. Kind of fun doing this. I've never tried this kind of stuff before. They're very similar. Still a little bit more low mids on the 47. I'm now going to try and go, I don't know, let's go up to 138 on that. So I'm increasing the intensity. 47. It's amazing how much drive you can take on this. Now I'm like crunching it. Pretty similar. $47. So I think I've got them sounding pretty similar. Now, the reality is like my 47 is very special. It has one of the best top ends of any 47 I've ever used. I also have a 48, which is down at Harmony, and those of you that follow me will know that's the one we used on How to Save a Life. It's what was used on Adele's Someone Like You. It's also on the whole of the last Aerosmith record. So it's a very special mic. It's been used on a lot of things, and it's very dark. It doesn't have a particularly good top end, but with the right kind of boost, it's pretty awesome on the top. I prefer to use my 47 because it has a really nice top end. I mean, I hear that drive now, so my inclination is to bring this down, probably somewhere about here, bring up the output a little bit. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I definitely like the low mid bump on my 47. But there's definitely a more balanced sound out of the VMS. So with the Aid, I think with the FG73 and the mic, I've got a sound which is closer to a mix sound for me. You know, I'm driving that at 50. I printed the other one at 35. Not that these things are ever calibrated perfectly, but let's just get closer to 35 here. So this is like now set up pretty identically to the way the other one was printed. Okay, just because we can, and that's the whole point of this mic, I am going to change it. So I'm going to hit mic, and oh dear, we've got loads now. When did this happen? Last time I looked at it, I only had a C12. Now it's got a 67, a 251. Wow, a Sony, an M7. Yowza. 60. Oh. All right, well, I have to go C12. Okay, so now I've selected it all to C12 with the same setup on the FG73. Again, no compression, no EQ. Let's have a listen to that. All right, sorry, FG12. The C12 emulation is why I got this mic. It's entirely why I got it. And I felt that way when we went and tested it. Now, we could do vocals on it. If you go and watch the Stephen Slate one I did with him, he did vocals on it and he sang it into and stuff. But the reason why I really wanted this is there's no way, you know, and pristine C12 is like, you know, $30-something thousand for like a really nice one. I got a close enough to a C12. It's a great sound, and I'm not comparing it against a real C12. Don't get me wrong, but it's a really, really good sound. I love that. .47 sounds boring and woolly compared with that. C12. That's why, what do they say? That's worth the price of admission. Now there's some fantastic clones out there. I have some Pelusos, which are really inexpensive. They're in the sort of 1500 range, which sound great. Wonder make a really good one. and particularly people love the Flea. So there's these really, really good, I say Wonder as well, if I mention that, but people love the Flea 47. But this as a C12 emulation is worth the price of admission to me. I love my 47, don't get me wrong. I'm still going to use it on many vocals. Between that and my LCT 940, which is a great mic because it's tube to FET, I'm still going to use those mics a lot. But this for the C12 emulation is pretty darn good. I'll be honest, it's why I want this mic, because there's no way I'm ever going to buy a C12. No way. I'm not going to sell my car or take some money out of my house to spend that much money on a mic. Now, I do have a C12 clone, but it doesn't sound enough like a C12 for me to use it all the time. I also have C12As, which are, I believe, the same capsules, but other things are different about it, which I do love. But this is as close to, well, this is what I want out of a mic, and especially in this price range. So I'm very impressed with that. Let's, just for snits and sniggles, let's try me wailing really badly through the two different mics. Okay, 1, 2, 2, 2. So we got the set on the C12. Same settings. Somebody knocking on the door? Can you open the door? Oh, we'll be ready in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to set it obviously to the 47, and then we can go to the C12 and see what that's like afterwards. Just so we can at least have a comparison. Again, this isn't science, and I know lots of people will tell me I'm doing it wrong, and I am. I'm doing it completely wrong. But the whole point is like, we're going to try something. So I'm going to click mics here. I'm going to go to the 47 emulation, and I'm just going to make something up. So you'll have to excuse my bad wailing. Those of you that follow me know I can't sing. Don't even know what key we're in. Who knows? Anyway. Let's go to the 47, let's bring it in. Here we go, so here's the 47. All right. I'm going to do one last VMS one because I just figured out what I want to sing. So here's back to the VMS just because, I now know what. That's why God invented auto-tune. All right, so we're getting a little bit more level on the 47 than we are on the VMS. I mean, we can compensate for that in the plug-in. You can see this; it's printing a little hotter. So here's the VMS. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ooh, totally out of tune. Okay, let's go to the U47. I'll take that. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. Cool. So let's take that second phrase. Here's the 47. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. VMS. Ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. Now, before you say it, no, I'm not using a pop screen. I'm not using a pop screen. Moving that pop screen would have taken an extra 5 minutes on each one. So. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba dum. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba dum. So we're going to take the pad off. Oh, there's a lot more output without the pad on. Let's come back somewhere. Ba 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 da ba. All right, let's try a more competitive level. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Wow, so that instantly makes it a lot closer. Ha! Okay. So that little kind of pad there is making a huge difference. So here's ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. Okay. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da. So I'm gonna solo the second half. I've brought the VMS down a little bit. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. 47. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. VMS. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. 47. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. It's interesting. I definitely hear that low mid kind of bump on the 47, which gives it sort of a feeling of a little bit of smoothness. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use cleverness. Here is our Paz frequencies. So here's the 47. Ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba da ba da. So it's everything we're saying. Doesn't have the top end detail quite so much. It's got a low mid bump at around about what is that, like 600-700. Okay, let's go to the VMS. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba. Okay, it's a little quieter, so let's bring that up a little bit. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Bit more. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. I'm deliberately keeping it just underneath level-wise so I can look at it. Now, this isn't science. I mean, I suppose it kind of is. It's about as scientific as we're going to get, but it's still not science because not everything's the same. But as far as, you know, we've got simulation of a neve and a real neve. Ba 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 da ba. But I can see the main thing that we've been hearing from the beginning of the difference between these two mics is that low mid here, and it is, look, you can see the difference. It's at 600 here, and look at the peak of the 600 on this one. Ba 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 da ba. And it's the opposite of what's missing from this. So just for schnitz and schniggles, let's take an EQ. We'll go to the Q1. We'll do 5, 9, 6. And we're going to boost it. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. Ba 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 da ba ba da ba da ba da. So it's interesting. It's like when I sing a note that's close to that, it grabs it and boosts it. Otherwise, it's not. It's not like filling it in. It's almost like the only way to replicate that low mid would be to take a multi-band compressor and compress about 600 and keep it in there the whole time. That would simulate it. It's not just a case of applying the extra EQ. So like, for instance, if we went and took a dynamic, let's go to C4 here, and I went here at about 600 and turn these off.
Ba 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 da ba 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 ba.
Just compressed it very heavily.
Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba ba da ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. 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 Ba ba da ba 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 ba.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the difference between the mics is quite a lot. I mean, they're two, one's my 47 and one is modeled on a completely different 47. I would definitely say the low mids, that 600 is kind of omnipresent in here, which is interesting because when I mix, if you go to my EQ, I pull out a ton of 600 because we get this kind of nasaliness, because this has a lot of build-up. So this one doesn't, which means it's modeled on a different 47 that has it. There's definitely that horrible 600. There's a lot of low mids around about here. There's some mid-range, sorry, about here, 1200, 1500, and then the top end is kind of, it's an old mic, it's kind of falling off a little bit, which is the same really of the FG 47. When I EQ, if you've ever watched any of my vocal EQ things, you'll notice I really go heavy on that top end and really kind of liven it up. And I noticed I've had a couple of mixers say when they mix it that they do the same thing. When they're mixing my stuff, they get a little extra top end boost if I'm using that mic. But, that's a characteristic. That smooth top end could also be confused with like not as open on the top end. But anyway, bottom line is it doesn't sound exactly like my 47. My 47 has a little issues in that low mids. I honestly prefer what we're getting on the VMS for the acoustic guitar. It was a little bit more even sounding. And the C12 alone is worth the price of admission for me. So if you only use it for the C12, for me, that's great. That was the sole purpose of me getting this mic, was for the C12. But because I own a 47, I wanted to compare them. I think it's sort of apples and oranges to compare a generic 47, which anybody could have because they're all different, to one of these. But for $1,000 with a mic pre, remember it's got the mic pre with it and the software and the mic. Pretty special. I'm all about pieces of equipment which offer great value for money. So I'm very impressed with this, very excited. Unfortunately, I don't have a real C12 to compare this against, but I do love what it sounds like. So great work, very impressed, really good value for money. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to use it for my C12. I got my 47 and I got my Lewitt 940, and I've got a couple of other mics I'll use. So between those 3 or 4, I've got all the different sounds that I'll need for vocals in particular. But I'm also quite likely to throw this on an acoustic guitar now, knowing that it has a much kind of tougher mid-range, and a more even without that low mid bump. I might be using this on acoustic guitars quite often when I don't want to use a small diaphragm. I use the 240 Lewitt, and I also have a KM56, which is a very special microphone, as you know. But I think for a different sound altogether, I'll probably be using the VMS. So thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and please leave a bunch of comments and questions below. This isn't science, this is just opinion. You know, please tell me what you think, and have a marvelous time recording and mixing once again.